Having bowed down to Narayana and Nara, the most holy male being, and also to the goddess Saraswati, must the word Jaya be uttered. In the shadow of ancient Indian lands, a legend echoes through the ages. This is not just a tale, it's a timeless saga of honor, betrayal, and destiny. Prepare to witness the epic of Mahabharata like never before. Unfolding in its truest form, where heroes rise, kingdoms clash, and fate demands a heavy price. In the grand and sacred hall of the snake sacrifice, surrounded by priests and sages, King Parikshit sat with a solemn expression, draped in royal attire that bore the weight of his lineage. The air was thick with the scent of sacrificial offerings and the sound of mantras reverberating through the space. Vasampena, the revered disciple of Vyasa, stood before the assembly, his voice resonating with both authority and reverence. As he began recounting the epic tale of the Mahabharata, the gathered audience listened intently, their faces illuminated by the golden glow of ritual fires. His words brought to life the great wars, heroics, Dharma, and the complex fates of gods and mortals, weaving a story that spoke of honor, sacrifice, and cosmic justice. The atmosphere was imbued with awe as ancient memories came alive in vivid detail, binding the past and present in a moment of divine storytelling. During that time, many sages, rishi munis, royals, and sacred storytellers were present. One of these storytellers was Ugrasrava, also known as Sauti, the son of Lomharshana. He was well-versed in the ancient Puranas. After listening to the epic tale of the Mahabharata, Sauti traveled to many sacred temples, holy places, and sacred rivers. He also visited the learned Dvijas, which means twice born, also known as Samanta Panchaka, where the great battle between the Kuru and Pandav families and their allies happened. From there, Sauti made his way to the Naimisha forest to meet the ascetics who were part of the 12-year-long sacrifice led by Sonka, also called Kulpati. Sauti arrived at the peaceful ashram of the sages in the Naimisha forest. He saw the sages, joined his hands in a respectful namaste, and greeted them. The sages accepted his greeting, welcomed him warmly, and offered him a seat to rest. They began to talk once he was seated comfortably and had recovered from his journey. One of the sages asked, "It's been a while. We haven't seen you around these parts lately. Where have you been during your travels?" Sauti replied, after hearing the incredible and sacred story written by Krishna Dvaipayana and fully recited by Vasampena at the snake sacrifice of the noble king Janmeja, son of Parikshit, I visited many holy places and sacred rivers. Eventually, I came to the land respected by sages, called Samanta Panchaka, also known as Kurukshetra. From there, I came here to see you, who took part in the 12-year sacrifice led by Sonka, also known as Kulpati. To me, you great sages are as revered as Brahma. Sauti then asked, "What would you like me to recite? Should I tell the sacred stories from the Puranas that teach about religious duties and worldly gains, or should I share the stories of great saints and noble rulers?" One of the sages said, "The Purana first taught by the great sage Dvaipayana is highly respected by both the gods and the wise Brahmarshis. It is known as the most important story, full of different styles and sections, with deep meanings that are logically connected and taken from the Vedas. This sacred work, written in beautiful language, includes lessons from other books as well. Explained by other teachings, it holds the essence of the four Vedas. We would like to hear that story called Bharata, the holy work created by the remarkable Vyasa. Sati bowed down to Isana, the ancient being worshipped by many, the true and incorruptible Brahman. He is both visible and invisible, eternal, and is the source of everything, existing and not. He is the universe but also separate from it, the creator of all things high and low. He is ancient, mighty, and never-ending. He is Vishnu, the kind and pure one, and Hari, the ruler of the senses and the guide of all things, living and non-living. After completing his bow down to Lord Vishnu, Sati said he would share the sacred teachings of the great sage Vyasa, known for his amazing deeds and respected by everyone. Some storytellers have already shared this history, some are teaching it now like me, and others will continue to spread it around the world. This story is an important source of knowledge, known in all parts of the world. The twice-born, or learned scholars, have it in both long and short versions. It pleases wise people with its beautiful language, conversations between humans and gods, and different poetic styles. Sati began the story from the very start of the universe and said, "In the beginning, the world was dark and without light. But then a mighty egg appeared, the endless seed of all creation. This egg was called Mahadevya, also known as Hiranyagarbha, and it formed at the start of the Yuga. Inside it was Brahma, the true light, eternal, present everywhere. He was an invisible and subtle cause, holding both existence and non-existence within him. From this egg came Pitamaha Brahma, the great Lord and the first Prajapati, the creator of all beings. From the Mahadevya came Pitamaha Brahma, the great Lord and the first Prajapati, the creator of all living beings. Along with him appeared the Asura Guru and Sthanu, also known as Lord Shiva. Then came the 21 Prajapatis, the children of Lord Brahma. These included Manu, the forefather of mankind, Vashishtha, Parameshthi, the 10 wise and observant beings called the Prachetas, Daksha, who was the father of Sati and Lord Shiva's father-in-law, and 7 sons of Daksha. After them appeared many powerful and divine beings, such as the Adityas, the Vasus, the Viswadevas, the twin Ashwins, the Yakshas, the Sadhyas, the Pisachas, the Guhyakas, and the Pitras. Finally, the most holy Brahmarishis and numerous Rajarishis were created. Then came the creation of time and space, water, earth, fire, wind, heaven, years, seasons, months, days, and nights, all in a proper order. This is how everything we know came into existence. Everything in the universe, whether living or non-living, will eventually be destroyed at the end of Yuga and then reborn at the start of another Yuga. This endless cycle of creation and destruction will continue forever. We, too, are part of this cycle until we achieve moksha, the freedom from this eternal cycle. The creation of the Devas is briefly pointed out as 33,333. In the past, Divyaputra, Brihad, Bhanu, Chakshu, Atma, Vibhavasu, Savita, Richika, Arka, Ashavaha, Vivasvan, Mahya, and Ravi. All these words are considered to signify the Sun God. The Sun God is considered to be the one who established life on the earth and is worshipped by all. The Sun God's son was Devvrat, and Devvrat's son was Subrat. Subrat had 3 sons, all of whom are progenitors and well-versed in many shastras. Their names are as follows: Dashajyoti, Shatajyoti, and Sahasrajyoti. Each of these sons had many descendants. Dashajyoti had 10,000 descendants, Shajyoti had 1 lakh, and Sahasrajyoti had 10 lakh descendants. From these families came the great lineages, including the Kuru, Yadu, and Bharat, the families of Yayati and Ikshvaku, and many Rajarishis. Over time, countless generations were born, and the earth became filled with living creatures and their homes. The sage Vyasa saw and recorded all these and many other great truths in his works. These included the threefold mysteries of the Vedas, Yoga, and Vijnana. He also described teachings on Dharma, Art, and Kama, as well as rules for proper conduct, histories, and discourses based on various Shrutis. All of this knowledge is preserved in his sacred works. Vyasa shared his vast knowledge in 2 versions, one detailed and one shorter. Scholars value both versions and strive to learn them. Some begin reading the Bharata with the opening mantra, others start with the story of Astika, some with Uprichara, while some Brahmanas study the entire text from start to finish. Scholars show their understanding in different ways. Some skillfully explain it, while others memorize its contents completely. Vyasa, the son of Satyavati, used deep penance and meditation to study the eternal Veda and create this sacred history. After completing this great work, Vyasa, the wise son of Parashar and a revered Brahmarshi, thought carefully about how to teach it to his disciples. How can this be made popular among the people? Lord Brahma, the creator of everything, understood Vyasa's worries and personally came to meet him to reassure the saint and help the people. Vyasa was surprised to see Lord Brahma. He joined his hands and bowed down. Then he became alert, and along with all the sages and saints, he arranged a special seat for Lord Brahma. When Lord Brahma sat on that seat, Vyasa walked in circles around him and stood humbly near Lord Brahma's seat. By the order of the Supreme Lord Brahma, he sat near his seat. At that time, Vyasa's heart was brimming with joy, and a soft, sacred smile was waving on his face. Vyasa requested to Lord Brahma and said, "Lord, I have composed an epic that is highly revered by the entire world. Lord Brahma, in this epic, I have included the deepest secrets of the Vedas and the essence of all other scriptures. It not only covers the Vedas but also their sections and the Upanishads in detail. History and the Puranas have been explored thoroughly, revealing their full depth. The past, present, and future have also been explained here. This book examines the truth and illusions about aging, death, fear, disease, and material things. It describes the characteristics of different religions and stages of life according to one's role and responsibilities. It also outlines the duties of the 4 Varans, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra and provides the essence of the Puranas. The book explains the nature, rituals, and results of penance and celibacy. It describes the earth, moon, sun, planets, constellations, stars, and the four ages, Satya, Treta, Dwapar, and Kali Yuga, along with their significance. The spiritual meanings of the Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, and Samaveda are explained in detail, along with justice, education, medicine, charity, and the greatness of the inner self known as Pashupta. It answers why beings are born in different forms like gods, humans, and others. Sacred places of pilgrimage, countries, rivers, mountains, forests, and oceans are also described. The book includes knowledge on building divine cities and forts, the art of war, and the characteristics of various languages and communities. Everything necessary for good conduct and public welfare has been included, yet I worry because no one on earth can write it down. Lord Brahma said, Vyasa, because of your extraordinary penance and your deep knowledge of the world, living beings, and the essence of God, I consider you the greatest among all the sages in the world. I know that your words, inspired by divine truth, have always been honest, and you have called your creation a poem. So that shall be, from now on, it will be known as a poem. And no poet in the world will be able to create anything greater than this. Just like Brahmacharya, Vanprastha, and Sannyas, the three ashrams cannot surpass Grihasthashram due to its unique qualities, your poem will remain unparalleled. To have your poem written down, you should call upon Lord Ganesha for help. After Lord Brahma finished speaking to Vyasa, he returned to his own abode, Brahmalok. Vyasa then began thinking of Lord Ganesha. As soon as Vyasa thought of him, Ganesha, the remover of obstacles and fulfiller of his devotees' wishes, appeared before him. Vyasa welcomed him warmly, and after Lord Ganesha took his seat, Vyasa said to him, Gananayak, please be the writer for the Bharata, which I have seen with my divine vision and am about to recite. Hearing this, Lord Ganesh said, Vyasji, I have one condition. If I do not stop writing, even for a moment while writing, I can become the author of this book. Vyasa also told Lord Ganesha, okay, but I also have a condition. Do not write even a single word in any context without understanding its meaning. Lord Ganesha accepted it by saying Om and became a writer of this Mahabharata. Then Vyasa, out of curiosity, started making notes in the book. He used to recite such verses whose meaning would appear to be different from the outside but would be something else inside. In this regard, Vyasa said with a firm resolve, there are 8,800 verses in this book whose meaning I fully understand, and so does Shukdev. However, I am not sure if Sanjay understands them or not. Because of their hidden meanings, no one has been able to fully understand those complex and tightly knit verses to this day. Even Lord Ganesha, who knows everything, used to stop for a moment while thinking about those verses. During that time, Vyasa used to compose many more verses. This is how Sage Vyasa is able to fulfill Lord Ganesha's condition. The wisdom of this work is like an ointment that opens the eyes of the curious world, blinded by the darkness of ignorance. Just as the sun dispels darkness, the Mahabharata dispels human ignorance through its discussions on religion, profit, pleasure, and ultimate release. When Dhritarashtra, Pandu, and Vidura grew old and passed away, Maharishi Vyasa started to give the sermon on Mahabharata. When Maharaja Janmejaya and thousands of Brahmins asked questions, Vyasa ordered his disciple Vaisampayana, who was sitting nearby, to recite the Mahabharata to these people. Vaisampayana sat with sacrificial members, so whenever sacrificial ritual was held for a break, Maharaja and priests requested Vaisampayana to recite the Mahabharata to them. Maharishi Vyasji made Mahabharata with a collection of 24,000 verses, excluding the short stories within the Mahabharata epic. This version was known as Bharat by the men who learned it. After this, Sage Vyasa created a short chapter that served as an index of all the stories in the book, including the Parvas, which contains only 150 verses. Sage Vyasa first made his son Shukdev study this Mahabharata book, and after that, he taught it to other worthy disciples. Sage Vyasa again created another Mahabharata with a collection of 60 lakh verses. Its 30 lakh verses are being recited in the Devlok by Devarshi Narada. 15 lakh verses are recited in the Pitarlok by sage Asit Deval, and 14 lakh verses are recited in the Gandharvlok by Shukdev. Shukdev has also narrated the story of Mahabharata to Yakshas and demons, also known as Rakshasas. But in this human world, Sage Vyasa's disciple Vaishampayan, the crown jewel of all the Veda scholars, has taught us 1 lakh verses from the original Mahabharata. Sages, please allow me to narrate to you that same Mahabharata, which is composed of 1 lakh verses. After learning about the creation of the universe and the Mahabharata, the sages became curious about the place mentioned as Samanta Panchaka. They said, Sauti, during your story, you mentioned a place called Samanta Panchaka, also known as Kurukshetra. We would like to hear everything about that land and the great war fought there. Sauti replied, Respected sages, I will now tell you sacred and uplifting stories. Listen carefully, and I will also describe the holy land of Samanta Panchaka. In the middle of the Treta Yuga, Lord Parshuram, the greatest Brahman warrior, became enraged at the Kshatriya kings and defeated them many times. With his incredible strength, Lord Parshuram wiped out the entire Kshatriya clan and created 5 lakes filled with their blood in the area of Samanta Panchaka. It is said that Lord Parshuram, in his anger, used the blood in these lakes to offer water to his ancestors. Pleased by this act of devotion, his forefathers, including Richika, appeared before him and said, Parshuram, great son of the Bhrigu lineage, we are pleased with your dedication and strength. Ask us for any boon you desire. Parshuram replied, If you are truly pleased with me, I ask that I be freed from the sin of destroying the Kshatriya clan in anger. Also, let these lakes I created become famous pilgrimage sites on earth. This is the boon I seek. The ancestors granted his request and blessed him. They also asked Parshuram to stop killing the remaining Kshatriyas, and he agreed, calming his anger. The area around those blood-filled lakes became known as Samanta Panchaka, a sacred and holy land. Scholars say that a place is often named after something significant that defines it. Later, during the transition between the Dwapara and Kali Yugas, the same land of Samanta Panchaka became the battleground for the great war between the Kauravas and Pandavas. 18 mighty Akshohini's armies gathered there to fight in this holy and faultless land. All those armies were ultimately destroyed in the fierce battle. That is why this place, Samanta Panchaka, is considered sacred and holds a unique place in history. It is said to be pure, beautiful, and renowned throughout the three worlds. O wise Brahmins, I have told you about the glory of this holy land. The sages then asked, Sati, we want to know more about the Akshohini armies you mentioned earlier. How many foot soldiers, horses, chariots, and elephants are there in an Akshohini? Please explain it in detail since you know everything. Sati replied, 1 chariot, 1 elephant, 5 foot soldiers, and 3 horses. These are what scholars who understand the secrets of the army call Patti. 3 times the number of a Patti is called Senamukha by learned men. 3 Senamukhas make 1 Gulma. 3 Galmas form 1 Gana. 3 Ganas make 1 Vahini, and 3 Vahinis are called Pritna. 3 Pritnas make 1 Chamu. 3 Chamus form 1 Anikini, and 10 Anikinis together constitute 1 Akshohini army. This is what the wise have said. O revered Brahmins, scholars proficient in calculations have declared that the number of chariots in 1 Akshohini is 21,870. The number of elephants is said to be the same. The number of foot soldiers is calculated to be 109,350, while the exact number of horses is 65,610. O seekers of knowledge, this is what scholars who understand numbers call an Akshohini, which I have explained to you in detail. O noble Brahmins, according to this calculation, the total number of armies of the Kauravas and Pandavas amounted to 18 Akshohinis. That means there were 393,660 chariots, the same number of elephants, 1,968,300 foot soldiers, and 1,180,980 horses. By the influence of time, which brings about wondrous deeds, these armies were gathered at the Samanta Panchaka field, with the Kauravas as the cause, and there they met their end. Bhishma Pitama, the foremost expert in the art of weapons, fought for 10 days. Acharya Drona protected the Kaurava army for 5 days. The great warrior Karna fought for 2 days, and Shalya commanded for half a day. After that, the mace battle between Duryodhan and Bhimsena lasted for half a day. On the 18th day, after the battle ended, during the night, Ashwathama, Kritvarma, and Kripchare attacked and killed the sleeping soldiers of Yudhishthira without hesitation. Thus, the entire army was destroyed in that terrible war.